So last time we got together, Moshe, I don't think you were here because you were, I don't know where.
I was away for 3 weeks.
One of 3, 4, 5 cities over there in America. But we discussed something called Yochel Atzilo Be'echad Me'ivara.
Yeah, sure.
So that's what we want to pick up again now. I mean, a little bit more advanced. So you have to open up to Daf Ayin Dalet. I'll take a half a minute to find the page. Ayin Dalet. And you'll see on the third line from the top, Desanya. And this is the original Raisa of Rabbi Yonasan ben Shol. The Echad may Yochel Hatzil Bech Mevar. So he says the following: Rabbi Yonasan ben Shol Omer Rodef Shahaya Rodef Achar Chaveru Lahargo. So that was his intention, to try to kill him. We'll say Reuben was trying to kill Shimon. And then Yochel Atzilo, let's say Levi, could save Shimon, who's the Nirdaf, the Echad Mevarov, by taking out one of the Evarim of the Rodef. But Velo Hitzil. And instead he killed the Rodef. And he didn't have to kill the Rodef. Nerag Ol. Where did I see you lately? Yeah.
Was Eidim and Hasra?
What?
With Eidim and Hasra, of course.
I'm not sure exactly what this means here, but Pashtus, it means that we judge him as a Rotzeach. And that would mean that the Rodef is not a Rodef, or perhaps he is a Rodef, but he's not Chayiv Misa. That was the question. And we had a whole discussion in Afkamina, let's say somebody else who he himself could not kill, save the Nirdaf without killing the Rodef. And what's the din as far as he's concerned? So if we say that the fact that, let's say, you have Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda, right? Reuven is running after Shimon. Levi could save Shimon without killing Reuven, but Yehuda could not save Shimon without killing Reuven. So if we're going to say the Pakashem Rodev, then we determine that even Yehuda would be Chayiv Misa if he killed the Rodev, if he killed Reuven. That's called Hafkaz Shem Rodev. Okay. If on the other hand, it's not Hafkaz Shem Rodev, but it's only a kind of allowance that we're gonna allow the Rodev to survive. We're sort of like protecting the life of the Rodev, because so you know what? He's still a Rodev according to this. It's not Hafkaz Shem Rodev, and therefore it could be that if he's still a Rodev, then if Yehuda has no other way of saving Shimon other than killing Reuven, although we said that Levi could find another option, it could be that Yehuda could kill Reuven, or at least if he kills him, he's not fine. All right, that was a discussion we had last week. I just wanted to sort of clue you in. My time with Rabbi Yonasan ben Shol. Now that question itself is fascinating because it means that the Gemara doesn't see any inherent logic. And this makes more sense if you hold Hafkaz Shem Rodev, that just because, you could tell the third party, right, the spectator, the Matzil, look, remember when we spoke about Bob Machteris, we said that there is no halach of Yochel Atzila. That we're not going to ask the Balabayas to start making calculations. How could he possibly, save his possessions without killing the burglar? We're not going to do that. But the Gemara therefore wants to find a source for Rabbi Yonasan ben Shol. And what's the source? So this Gemara that we're about to learn is a bit complicated because, I'm going to have to learn not from what the Torah says, but from rather what the Torah does not say. And the Torah says the following: and the end of the pasuk it says v'nogfu isha hara v'yotzi yolidei anoshi anesh, etc. So what happens is that Reuven is trying to kill Shimon, but instead of hitting Shimon, he hits a pregnant woman. And then what happens afterwards? It says v'yotzi yolidei. So she lost the fetus as a result of the blow that Reuven gave to her. Anosh ye onish. And Onoshi Onesh seems to imply that you have to pay what's called Tumei Vlodos. So in the laws of the Zikin, there's a certain system called Tumei Vlodos. Okay? Omar Rab Lazar, B'matzus shebemisa hakosu medaber. What does it mean? Matzus is a battle, right? A confrontation. And the confrontation was like do or die, meaning that Reuven, when he hit, he was thinking of hoping to hit Shimon, but he didn't hit Shimon. But his plan, his intention was to kill Shimon. And that's called the Matzus Shebemisa Kosu Medaber. Okay, fine. And what happened now? So this is the part of the pasuk we haven't read yet. Right.
There it's matzus. Misa.
So we have here pasuk of Gimel. Until now, we've been dealing with pasuk of Beis. Now we go to pasuk of Gimel. Because in pasuk of Beis that we saw until now, he has to pay Tmei Vlodos. And why does he pay Tmei Vlodos? Because the mother survived. But now the pasuk says, what happens if the mother didn't survive? That's called a Sonia. A Sonia means she died.
Right.
And therefore, Reuven is a Rotzeach. Now we have to think about that because Reuven didn't want to kill her, he wanted to kill someone else. But could be that Niskaven L'Yisrael Zeh, the Harg Yisrael Acher is Chayv Mishum Ritzicha. Because what he intended to do was a Meiser Ritzicha. But be that as it may, it says, which means we're going to put Reuven to death. Why? Because he killed this woman, right? As a result of hitting this woman, he killed her. Oh, now take a look at the Masechet. He adds a bit of a hezbollah. He writes, "Umuchach mikach shemedubar kisharotza laragas chavero sharei im lo hayam iskamin lariga kol shehi." And it says nefesh tachas nefesh. So it must be that he's a murderer, and he was not a shogeg, he was amazing. He wasn't amazing vis-a-vis her, meaning instead he wasn't intending to kill her, but he was amazing vis-a-vis the Meiser Ritzicha.
If you shoot randomly and someone warns you not to kill, not to shoot.
Right, and it's bad. How many people are out there? Are they Jews or not Jews? He's following. They're all in. So then you're Chayav Misa.
That means it doesn't matter who you kill.
Right, as long as you're amazing. Like you say, right, as long as right. And it doesn't matter. If, let's say your gun moved a little bit to this way, or the bullet with this, and instead of killing him, you killed him, you're Chayav Misa.
Even though you directed
even though you tried to kill him, but somehow the bullet got moved, or so you weren't very. Yeah.
But it's not
the sheet.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's what we're going with now. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens now? The pasuk says, "Im rason yiyeh," meaning that she died. Then nefesh tachas nefesh. But now we have the flip side. What happens if she didn't die? Afilu hachi amar achmana. So that his situation was, I'm talking about the person who we call him Reuven, who tried to kill Shimon, that he's a rodef. And nevertheless, it says that ason, if she survives it, she has to pay Dmei Vlodos. Now, here's a case of a rodef who kills a baby, and he has to pay Dmei Vlodos. But he was a rodef because he tried to kill Shimon. Now, how could this be? We have a principle called Kim Levi D'Rami. And that means that if a person is involved in a Chiyuv Misa, he's Chayav Misa, then he doesn't pay damages, which is going to be a major sugya that we're coming around the bend, but we have to embrace that principle.
But isn't that only when they actually did the
the more chamur thing?
No, because remember we had the Sugi Chila above Machteres, and he broke Caleb while he was in the Machteres. In fact, there was even one sheet of Rab that he took out the Caleb, and they're still intact, and he doesn't have to return them because at the time that he took them, he was Chayav Misa as above Machteres. And again, we had a lot of trouble with that sheet of Rab, but that was the extreme sheet.
Okay.
So now we're looking for a possibility that a person is a Rodev, and yet he's not a Rodev. What do I mean? He's a Rodev in the sense that he wants to kill someone. But he's not going to be potter from Dmei Vlados, meaning from Mammon, as a Rodev, because he's not a Rodev. What do you mean he's not a Rodev? So the only possibility of finding such a Chedimtza is what's called Yochel Atzilo B'Echad Meivara. Because that's the way you could say that somebody is trying to kill someone else, and yet he's not a Rodev. Again, maybe he is a Rodev, but he's not a full-fledged Rodev.
But you're saying you're making an akimta here then, that it happened that he could have been killed, he could have been stopped by.
The Gemara feels that has no choice.
But if you have another, I'm saying if there's an alternative option, but look, this, the how should I say, the stakes are very high. Why? Because you're looking for a case where you know he's a Rodev. I mean, the Torah says he's a Rodev, and
he's Chayav Misa, so he has to be a Rodev.
No, I understand.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So that the original line here was b'matzah sheb'misa kosev medav, which makes Reuven into a Rodev, because b'misa means he's going to fight till the death of Shimon. That makes him a Rodev. Now, for sure, he shouldn't be paying damages. And yet the Torah says, well, ima son yiyeh, then he doesn't pay damages. But if lo yason, he didn't succeed in killing Shimon, then he will pay to pay Vlados. He says, there's only one way of explaining that. If you're going to tell me even though he's a Rodev, but you didn't have to kill him in order to save Shimon, is therefore lo nitan latzilo benafsho, since you could have prevented Reuven from killing Shimon without killing Reuven, then he's not Chayav Misa. And therefore, now I understand why he has to pay damages, in this case, to make Vlados. Why? Could go and if you're going to tell me that the halacha of Rodev still applies, even in the case of what? Of is how can it possibly be that he's potter, that he's chayav from the Dvei Vlados? He has to be potter from the Dvei Vlados. Everybody have that? Now let's take a little bit of a Pesach Zman, and let's analyze the following question here. There's something very odd going on, at least in my mind, that maybe you'll set me straight. If Reuven is chayav misa as a Rodev, right, before we have the interpretation of Rabbi Yonasan ben Shaul, then he's a Rodev of who?
Shimon.
Of Shimon.
The guy.
He has nothing to do with the Vlados whatsoever. And now we're saying that he should be potter from Dvei Vlados, if not for Yochel Atzilo and all that.
Saying in the parsha of the brothers, he's not right. In other words,
Yeah, I mean, let's say we'll call the third person. We'll call her Leah, right? She's the mother of the Vlados. I mean, what does it mean that Leah could not collect damages for her personal damage? Because she's the Bible of the Vlados, her husband. I'm not going into that. Why? Because Reuben was trying to kill Shimon. That's like really strange, no?
if you crash into something, intending to kill someone, and you crash into another car first and then kill the person, you'd be liable for
logically, I'm saying the Gemara is not like that. But I'm saying if you ask me
should
to
be a window when you
logic,
kill someone.
why? You're potter because you're trying to kill so and so. Well, why do I have to suffer from that? You went in, like you say, you went into my broke down my door. I don't know, my garage.
We're the case where you fire an arrow, it goes through someone's beggar and then kill someone, right? This is one suicide.
Yeah, but that's mistaken, that's,
Yeah.
So the beggar of the
Same thing.
inside.
The owner of that garment, right? You're putter in that case, right?
In that case, so
That's
that's
exactly-
Well, I
completely
don't know.
different.
I mean, that would depend on what we're learning here. So in the language of the Gemara, back in Ksubis, that's called Misa Lezeh V'Tashlumin Lezeh.
That's what I was about to say.
And that's what we're going to learn now. I'm just, weighing your appetite,
You're setting us up.
setting you up. What's going on over here is that Reuven is going to be parted from Dmei Vulados. Again, the Torah says not like that. The Torah says Anos Yonesh. But if not for Anos Yonesh, with the interpretation of Rabbi Yonasan ben Shol that we're talking about a case of Yachal Atzil, but if not for all that, then the simple pshat in the pasuk is that Reuven doesn't have to pay Dmei Vulados. That's basically what Rabbi Yonasan ben Shol is asking here. I don't understand why Reuven should have to pay Dmei Vulados. Because we should be applying the principle of Kimlev D'Ramine because Reuven is a Rodef. And that's going to force Rabbi Yonasan ben Shol to come up with a Hechatim, so where Reuven, even though he's trying to kill Shimon, is not a Rodef. That's his whole Hamtza'ah. But if not for that whole business about Yochel Atzilo, if you go with a straight Rodef halacha, then there's no Dmei Vulados.
so if it's an analogy,
That's the kasha that he's asking. There's no Dmei Vulados. What do you say, Moshe?
this is an analogy of Baba Machteres, and the owner of the Machteres is a shomer chinam on a beautiful vase.
Right.
And the person and the Ganav broke the vase. So that would be, he's.
It's Misal is heaven.
That would be an analogy.
Yeah. I can understand why the Bab Machteres doesn't have to pay for the kalim of the Baal Bayis, because he's chayav bisa, because he's trying to kill or he's
So why should
in
he
danger
be
of the Baal
part
Bayis.
of the-
But Yenim has his kalim here, and therefore he doesn't have to pay to Yenim. But apparently we're operating with the position, like your case, David, with the arrow, that if you're involved in a chiyuv bisa, and at that moment you're chiyuv bisa, you're put for all damages in the world. Doesn't matter to whom.
even to the person, if you try to kill someone, you put brand damage there. You don't pay the zikin or anything because you were rodent.
That's what it comes out according to this Gemara.
Interesting.
Unless it was Yochel Atzil Bechabei Vara. But if it's not Yochel Atzil Bechabei Vara, he's a full-fledged road. If he doesn't have to pay damages for no one in the world. And yet the Torah says, Anos Yonesh. So Rav Yonasan says, well, Hechi Mishkaches Le'di Yonesh. How can it be that he pays damages when he's a rodef? And the answer is that he's not exactly a rodef because it's Yochel Atzilo B'Yachabei Vara. But now the Gemara says, but I could take another approach. I could say the reason why he does pay damage. I'm sorry. The reason why he does not pay damages, even though he is a rodef, is because it's misa lezeh, meaning he's chayav misa for endangering and trying to kill Shimon, and mammon is lezeh, is for the
It's
isha.
Mazik Leah.
He's mazik. That's what Gemara says. Dilma shani hacha, the misa lezeh v'tashlumin lezeh.
Why should it make a difference when you have to pay, once you say, even if the rubber made, let's say, who cares who he's gonna owe what to?
Right.
We don't give,
If it's a different base,
That's the shita.
Basic can only punish for one, give one punishment for an act, then the Torah shouldn't make a difference, right? If it's a tour, then maybe.
Right.
So forget those.
So I don't think it doesn't seem to me like it's in exactly Kimle B'Rabamine, because I always understood that with that is talking about when he really was mitchayev in the two things. That's true that when you're a rodef, it's kilu you mitchayev b'nafshecha, and if someone kills you, they're allowed to. But I can understand that if he really did kill someone and at the same time did nezek, then you say, then it's a classic case of Kimle B'Rabbi. But if he only intended to kill someone, and it makes him a. Okay, but it's not exactly Bava Mechter. It's a little bit of a different situation here. There's a cut of there.
Gemara's obvious, I mean, that's a real.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, but when I'm just saying that, no, but I'm saying in answer to this question, that it's not exactly Kimle B'Rabbi. He didn't actually, it wasn't actually Chayav Misa for an action that he did. It's a little bit some sort of an in-between situation.
Right. But the Gemara is deriving from Rav Yonasan and Shol that Kimle B'Rabbi is across the board. I'm Potter. He's Potter as long as at that moment he incurred a chiyuv misa. And again, this supports what we said many times, that Kimle B'Rabbi is a chiyuv misa in the case of a rodef. I'm saying the chiyuv of a rodef is b'toras chiyuv misa. It was even a havmina that you have to kill him with that kind of a misa that Beis Din would mean that.
You have to say it maybe like this. The chiyuv tashlimim in such a case is not a schus balim.
It's not what?
It's not a schus balim. The chiyuv tashlimim when they're in such a case wouldn't be the schus balim. It's just you're looking at what the mazik is doing,
right.
And he's potter, and she has no schus. Once he's in that realm of being chayav misa, then you don't look at anybody else's monetary rights. I mean, I'm just describing what is here. It's not an explanation. It's just a description.
Right. So that's called the Lashon HaGemara, Misa Lazeh v'Tashlum Lazeh. Let's take a look again how he interprets it. He says, Yesh Lomar Kanu Shonim. The Misa Lazeh Tashlum Lazeh. He's saying the opposite, Moshe, but because what you're explaining is Rav Yonasan ben Shol. But the Gemara now, Dilma Shani Hacha, is rejecting Yonasan ben Shol. And
Right.
the counter argument against Rav Yonasan ben Shol is that the reason why she has rights to collect damages.
Yeah, I'm talking about according to Peter, that she has no right, that she doesn't collect.
Right, so you're going back to Rav Yonasan
Yeah.
ben Shol. But take a look now in the Gemara, Dilma Shani Hacha, the Gemara is now rejecting Rav Yonasan ben Shol.
Right.
And the Gemara is saying that, why she collects damages is not because he's not a rodef, but because it's Misa Lazeh, Tashlum Lazeh. Shechiv Misa, let me just read it. Shechiv HaMisa V'Momen Einom Klape Oso Adam.
Right.
Kevin Shechiv Misa Hu Klape HaChaver, meaning we call them Shimon, Jacob brother. Chiv HaMomen Klape Bala Isha, okay, because he paid to make blooders to the Baal, not to the Isha. Right? So now the Gemara is arguing against Rav Yonasan ben Shol, and it's not an absolute patur that whatever you do while you're chayav misa, you're going to be patur. It's not an absolute all-inclusive carte blanche patur. L'chein sham yesh chiv tashlumin af shayachiv misa machma shayarodet. And why is that? Because it's misa lezeh v'tashlumin lezeh. V'yein hechre klal lahamid. Yeah.
Then we say that if there's a technical difficulty in killing him, we still apply it. In other words, if there were one from Astral, no proper aid, and the guy killed someone else, you still can't sue for any of the property damage because he could have been chayav misa. I mean, it's the same thing as Rover. It doesn't only apply.
I don't understand the scenario. He tried to kill someone and he broke something while.
No, he killed someone. And
Right.
he broke something in the process.
Right.
Oh, that guy, that
Right.
person.
That was Yechiel's case where he was successful. He actually implemented his intention and he killed someone.
They killed someone, but for some technical difficulty, we can't put him to death. Can we then charge him for the thing because there's no rubber?
Well, again, if the hezek was to the person that he killed, then there's no chiyuv.
Exactly, even though we can't put him to death.
Right.
So the same thing as the right. So even though if he doesn't carry on,
Because that's what we said. It's not a din in Beis Din, it's a din in the in the chiyuv that we're setting up a tour, and it's not a didn't based. What was the proof that we had, David? Do you remember that it wasn't a didn't based? I forgot. We were Daikin in Rashi. Now I'm forgetting.
Yeah, there was a rush, I think.
Yeah, it was Rashi. They showed me the.
Right. But there was a reason why Rashi was forced to introduce that. Yeah. So if he's a shogeg, nevertheless he's pot.
Yes.
Right, because it's not a didn't based. Okay. Now we go on. We're up to Lo Shna.
It's Rashi on the Mishnah 9 days on.
9 days, okay. So the Gemara now is going to try to prove from Rava that Misa Lezeh v'Tashlum Lezeh is potter. Not like the Gemara tried to say in the Dilma. The Omar Rava, Rodev Shaya Rodev Acher Chavero, V'Shiber Es HaKelim, Bein Shel Nirdaf, Bein Shel Kol Adam. You see that, Rabosai? Bein Shel Kol Adam, says Rav. I mean, that's again, Misa Lezeh, V'Tashlum Lezeh. Could be anyone on the face of the earth, and he's potter. My time, they should mischai benafsha. So we see that Rava holds that even in the case of Misa Lezeh v'Tashlum Lezeh, we still apply the principle of Kimlev D'Ramine. It's an absolute all-inclusive tour, because at that moment he was mischai Misa. And keep in mind, it doesn't say that he was successful, that he actually killed the guy. All it says is you are your Rodev Acher Chaver. So if we accept Rava, then we're saying that there's an absolute p'tur. So why does he pay in this parsha to make velados? And here we're forced to introduce Rav Yonasan ben Shmuel. Yochel atzilo b'echad meimor. Now Rava goes on, and he asks a different question. What about the Nirdaf? The Nirdaf is trying to save his life. And let's say in the process of saving his life, he destroys Caleb. Correct? He destroys Caleb. So let's take a Pesach Zman again and try to kind of like intuit what's going on over here. The Nirdaf is breaking Caleb. So in the case of the Rodef who breaks Kalim, okay, we have a principle, Kim Lev Namir. But in the case of the Nirdaf, I mean, I would introduce the following question. What is the Chiyuv Tashluvei Nezik? Is it the Torah's Onshim for the Avera being Mazik? Well, I don't know exactly what onsim means. I mean, that's going to be a range about close between Tosa and Ramban. I used to love to talk about this stuff. I remember when I was in groups. Now, again, if you recall, we tried to prove that Mazik is an Onesh from the Chachmei Tzorfas, if you remember, because the Mishnah in Perek HaKones, which says that Hamad l'Kedisha shel Chaver b'Shabbos Potur shekem eschai b'nafsha, and right, stay Rishayim. So it's got to be a Risha. So if the Chiyuv is the Torah's Risha, then we exempt him, so to speak. We knock off the Chiyuv of Mammon for the sake of the Chiyuv Misa, because he's Mechal Shabbos. So if that be the case, then would you say that the Nirdaf, when he breaks Kalim, is an Avaryan, if I could use that term?
Yeah, but
the Gemara is going to say that he's Chai. I'm trying to allure you to the opposite position.
So be right that it's not a no-nation.
Oh, If it would be an onesh,
So not
then
because-
l'chora, what kind of onesh can you have when the Torah says v'chai b'hem v'lo sheyomus b'hem? And with all due respect to Yedim's Caleb, if I got to save my life, I'm not going to give up my life because of his Caleb, even if they're worth millions. So to call him, to say that he violated Lo Sigzol or whatever the lav of Masek is, there are like 8 possibilities what the lav of Masek is, that doesn't make any sense. And yet, here it says in Rava, Tayeb. Wait a second.
No,
Shel Ro de Potter. I'm going to skip a little bit. Shel Kol Adam Chai. Shematzil Atzmo b'momon shel Chavero, he has to pay damages. That bothers me a lot.
Why can't you say this?
If you take a look at Nova Ches, look at this. He says in the footnote, in the name of the Gemara Baba Kama, that also lahatzil atzmo b'momon Chavero. Did you ever hear anything wilder than that?
It's just, you have to let yourself get killed rather than.
Talking about.
That's what I mean.
So you should damage, you should do
It's
the
not
damage.
because
but it's
nefesh?
not-
Yeah, but he's
Why is it not because
saying
of that?
Gemara, the Gemara says it's also, that's very tough.
Take the guy back.
No, no, upset of it, but he's asking about the lashon of if it's possible to do it.
But yes,
So, right, so he says usher means usher. You
Yes,
can't-
it's totally
you can't do it
started.
outside, slow the shower.
Save yourself, and you have to save yourself by destroying his mother, but you should know you're gonna have to pay for it.
Like I said, Zikin has 2 dinim. If you do it on purpose, then it's a risha, then it's a risha, and you're chayav because you damaged somebody. If you didn't do it with mazid, then it's only because you caused someone else. It's not a risha. It's not
It's not an onish, it's tough for Sodehu, like, just, he smashed into my storefront to save his life. I'm very glad that my storefront saved his life. But I don't have to pay for this,
Right, it's responsible.
What
so,
about if someone's dying and they?
but to say it's also to smash into my
But give me a
storefront, he
minute,
should
I
let
just want
himself
to
get
digest
killed,
what's going. Okay, just 1 second.
he should let himself get killed.
So again, he has to save his life. But he's gonna have to pay damages, because what's a separate chiyuv moment? So 1 second. Separate, so how does that stem with Madlik Esag Kodesh?
The mazid.
Madlik Esag Kodesh. Just 1 second. So wait a minute, are you saying that according to the Chachmei Sarfas, if, let's say, he would have to violate the Shabbos in order to save his life and break Caleb, let's say there was a Malacha Doraisa on Shabbos of breaking Caleb, let's say. And let's go according to Chizkiah of Machai Misa Shog, right? So we're going to say now that he has to, that he, just 1 second, it's not an Onesh. So wait, if it's not an Onesh, then he else, then he's going to have, just 1 second. If it's not an Onesh, then he'll have to pay for that. So when the Mishnah says, I mean, that's okay because that's 99.999% of the cases. When the Mishnah says that he's potter for damages, that's talking about a case where he was amazing. But let's say he had to save his life, and while he's saving his life, he'd be Machal Shabbos plus damage someone. In such a case, he'd be chayav to pay. Why? Because that's nothing to do with ownership. It's just simply a chiyuv moment. It's like I took your moment, I have to return it. Yeah, go ahead.
If someone's starving and he stole fruit from.
Yeah. Isn't there a famous? You don't have to look at Google.
So you don't have to.
Yeah.
He has
What is it with the apple? You know what I'm talking about? Maybe it was a child. Remember, it's a famous piece of literature. I think
Yeah, it is.
and they made a movie out of it. You know,
Yeah, there is.
he was stealing apples in order to save his life.
So from the point, it would be us to do it if you're not able to do that.
I think it was wrong.
This is all the-
No, then it was.
Be also to do it with what?
Wonderful note, it's usher, it would be usher to steal to save your life if you can't pay that. That's what
Right.
usher, that's what us, that's what it wants, right?
No, but
it says.
No,
Terms for
that can't
baseball,
be.
that the shalem kashtei tafsher lo.
Right.
Lo, that's really shalem, in other words.
There's a sheet of Rashi somewhere that says usher.
Oh, yeah?
No, but I say of.
Oh, maybe Rashi.
But maybe
in
it
Bava Kama.
doesn't say
Right,
like.
I think of
But I say
Yeah.
of Cars and Chaim should be Doicha the
the
lesser.
story of David HaMelech, right? I see, he said the Shiloh story of Kedisha Shachaveh, they want to bring down the Kaddish because he was hiding from the Plishtim or something.
So again, so what happens now? If the Nirdaf destroys the Kalim of the Rodev, then he's pot. Now, we didn't explain that yet.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do now. But if the Nirdaf destroys someone else's Kalim, then he's Chai.
Right.
Okay. Now, if he destroys the Rodev's Kalim, he's potter. Why? So Rava says, Shalo Yehema Mono Aviv Olav Migufa. Which I understand the following, that if the Nirdaf is allowed to kill the Rodev, then how much more so should he be allowed to destroy his property? Right? He's allowed to kill the Rodev to save his life. Here, take a look at Tosas here, the small little Tosas. Shalo Yehema Mono Chaviv Olav. If he's allowed to save himself by killing the Rodev, and for that matter, anyone could kill the Rodev. How much more so would he be allowed? Yeah, but it's not a question of being allowed. It's a question of whether he has to pay for it. And it'd be very odd if he had to pay the Rodev, but let's just think about it for a second.
What if he killed him and he didn't have to damage his cars?
Right. We're talking about a case where in the process of saving himself,
Yeah, no choice.
he had to destroy the Caleb. And now we're saying that he doesn't have to pay because he could have destroyed the life of the Rodef himself. Even though he destroyed someone else's Kalim, we said that he has to pay. So he's saving himself, he has to pay for that. But if it's the Kalim of the Nirdaf, then we apply this logic. Does Masifte add anything here? The Gufo Shel Rodef. I know why he has to be so flowery here, but anyway. Oh, he adds l'tzorach. Yeah, but okay, you're mutter, but the question was not mutter. You're missing the point over here. It's always mutter, but still you have to pay for damages, but not to the road. Which again, intuitively, that makes sense. I think I don't know, in secular law, I think that's probably what the law would be, but
maybe it's a knas against the Rodef.
Yeah, I don't know, but if it's a knas against the Rodef, I don't know if this Kal V'chomer really holds up. He's saying that there's a kolshkein here. Why? Because if you could take the Gufo Shel Rodef in order to save the Nirdaf, and Tosa says kolshkein, the nitan b'mamon, kolshkein the nitan b'mamon. Where's the Rama Paskin this halacha? Let's see if we can find that. Beis. Perak Ches Milchus Chovil Mazik Halacha Yud Beis. Beis Yud Beis. Perak Ches, I'm sorry. Ches Yud Beis, right? No, this is not it. Oh, Gimel, Yud Gimel. Nirdaf Sheshiber Kalim Shel Rodef Pot. Lo Yehema Mono Chavim Migufa. Guess what? The Rambam doesn't mention Kal V'chomer here.
So even if
Well, he's just quoting the Gemara.
That's what I mean.
He's quoting the words of Gemara. It's hard to know
Right.
what it means.
But I'm saying that in Tosfos, I don't have a choice here. Tosfos is putting it in terms of Hatzol. And if you can kill someone to be matzah, certainly you could kill and destroy his mama, right? That was the Kal V'chomer of Tosfos. But the Rambam is not saying that, I don't think. Nirdaf Sheshiber Kalim Shel Rodef Potter.
You can say that if his life is hefted, then certainly his property is hefted.
Right, but it might be a separate halacha. I would wonder, according to the Rambam, what would be if the Nirdaf
Just some breaks without.
Stam breaks it? Yeah, he didn't try to save his life.
No.
Eh,
So good day.
Yeah, there might be a separate
Yeah.
din over here. The rabbi is saying, that's it. Gufo is gone. The Torah was mafker is guf. The Torah is mafker is moment. So to speak.
Or you could have killed him without everything.
Yeah, in that case, he could have saved. He could
have.
have saved his life without damage,
Without them, yeah.
and yet he's part.
Shot him in the head instead of the.
I mean,
Tosfos
Tosfos would never buy into that because Tosfos is saying is Allah that soul. If you could kill someone for that soul, then you could kill his mom for that soul. But the Rambam doesn't have that whole piece of logic. So Yechiel's right. I mean, maybe the Rambam's just quoting the Gemara, but I'm saying by virtue of the fact that the Rambam quotes the Gemara without adding any ifs, ands, and buts, well, he's doing it for the sake of Hatzalah. I mean, the Rambam should have added that. Sometimes you learn more from what the Rambam doesn't write than from what the Rambam does write.
Well, it could be a moral law that we don't want anyone to think that property takes precedence over.
Maybe you should, because it's Yoshi. If you damage his property, you're penalizing Yoshi.
But in the note here, in the note about it, he says that the Yad David says,
Well, what number are you up to, if you don't mind?
Zion.
Zion. Yeah, Kosva Yad David, yeah.
It says, Yad David in the Tosfot, on that Tosfot,
Right, but keep in mind, footnote number Zion is totally oblivious to the Rambam. You follow what I'm saying? He didn't notice this Rambam.
Yeah.
Maybe he had his own shot. I'm not judging him, but
When the Rambam should have said that, look, what he's saying here in the footnote, the Rambam should have said if he meant it.
that's right. If the Rambam's saying it's all part of Hatzalah, then tell me that. Am I supposed to figure that out by reading this? It says Nirdaf Sheshiber Caleb Shel Rodif Potter. And it's like a separate halacha he's Potter.
It's like everything is hefker, as you said, like his life.
Yeah, I don't see that the Rambam is applying the principle of Hatzalah over here.
It's interesting, the story of David and Shaul, that you rip someone's garment and you could have killed it. Or you hire for their garment.
He's Shalom Shmuel.
Yeah, with David and Shaul.
For Shaul was a little bit.
Yes, so maybe he's not hire to pay Shaul.
Both sides, the clock is moving, so let's see if we can get another few lines here. Now we have another case. What's the next case? Rodef Shahaya Rodef Achar Rodef. In other words, now let's say, well, what do we want to call him? Let's call him Levi for the time being. So Levi is trying to save Shimon by killing Reuven. Interesting. What happens if Levi, who's the Matzil, has to break Caleb? V'shibur hakelim, bein shel Rodef, bein shel Nirdaf, bein shel kol adam. Whether he destroys the Kalim of Reuven in order to save Shimon, even if he destroys the Kalim of Shimon in order to save Shimon, and even if he breaks Kalim of kol adam.
Yeah,
I mean, now we're saying something totally different. That because of Pikuach Nefesh, you're allowed to break someone's Kalim, and you don't have to pay damages. So wait, let's read a little bit weiter, right? Okay. But do you understand where I'm always, when I learn the Gemara, I'm always trying to, goad you on, so to speak, so then we can appreciate the next piece of Gemara. He says, "V'lo min adin she'im iyata omer keinim tzei lecha ada kol adam she'matzils chavero miyad harodef," or something. Let's see what it says here.
Well, good for the comment.
Miyad harodef. How do you like that? I guessed it. Just kidding. No, I did guess it, but it didn't take a rocket scientist. Okay, so what do we have over here? We have a special takona. Oh, this is already hefker based in the hefker. You don't have to pay damages, because if we're going to tell you you're going to pay damages, who wants to get into Hatzalah? I mean, imagine what it means, to ride an ambulance, to save lives. And now we're going to say, well, if this happens and that happens, you're going to have to pay damages. Who wants to get into that? I mean, again, today we have insurance. Maybe that would cover
No,
it.
that's
But
that, it passed all these good Samaritan laws, because that was happening. People were saving, like, someone, and then, like, maybe, like, the guy get hurt while he was sick, like, he hurt the person, he had to save him in such a way that he also had to hurt him. It's like people getting
Right.
sued and things like that, and doctors didn't want to help people that
Yeah.
were like an accident on the sidewalk because they're afraid they'll get sued for malpractice, things like that.
Malpractice, right?
And because of those people were
You
like,
need
oh,
insurance
I know they saved me.
and
but,
you're gonna have to pay through your nose for malpractice insurance. So again, Meikar Adin, that I'm trying to figure out what would be Meikar Adin before the Takana. So if he destroys the kalim of, no, let's think about this. If he destroys the kalim of the nirdaf,
Of the road, then he.
well, let me get to the nirdaf first, because I think that's the simplest case. No, I'm saying the kalim shall the nirdaf for sure. But no, that's like upgrade.
Yeah.
I mean, what would you do? I mean, you would certainly break your own kalim to save yourself. You follow what I mean? Oh, but in the case, this I think might be a little bit more challenging. Me'ikar adin, let's say he breaks the kalim of the rodef. Let's just think. So we had the kal v'chomer. So one second, is it possible that this might depend upon Tosfos versus the Rambam? Let me just think about that. If it's Hatzola, if he does, so if he does for the sake of Hatzola, then for sure. But if he's saying it's a separate halach, separate halach also applies to other people as well. To any matzil, it's not, you're not just a nirdah. Correct? But let's say the rodef achar rodef would get angry at the rodef and just smashes kalim, right? Then I think, even according to the Rambam in that case, that's the question. Maybe according to the Rambam, you'd be potter. Could you say such a thing?
From the Rambam's formulation, possibly.
Let's think about that. I feel like we're going too far. Let's just think. According to the Rambam, is it possible that if this third party, who's the rodef achar rodef, would deliberately break the... No, it can't be. I'll tell you what it is. When the Rambam says that gufo and mamono, all that business, that's a separate halach for the nirdaf. In other words, from the nirdaf's perspective, that's what I would say. It's only a din in the nirdaf, that the nirdaf can just protect himself, and even beyond that, he can let out all his anger. But I don't know if the third party has the right to just, burn this guy out of, burn up his haystack. I don't know. And that it doesn't make sense. Okay, now what do I want to discuss with you? Do you remember that we had a Rambam here in Perek Ches Hilchos Chovel U'Mazik Halacha Dal? Do you remember this case? There's an anos. What's an anos? This guy is representing the government, and the government is confiscating Jewish property, or maybe even Goyish property. I don't know. And the anos says that the Melech wants this, right? And if not, who knows what's going to happen? They're going to raise the whole city to the ground. So comes along this Yid, whoever he is, and he gives the mammon of another Jew over to the anos. And the question is, does he have to pay damages? So the Rambam writes, you remember this? Nasa mammon chaver biyado. He picks up the whatever it is that the king is demanding of his friend, right? Mammon chavero. V'nasan la'anos. And he passes it on to the anos. Hayav l'shalem, the Rambam says. Afal pish hamelech onso lahavi. So he's saying that even though it's ones, maybe this is ones, Adam who would be all in few bonus, I don't know. But if he passes it over to the anos, he's chayav for that. So the Ravid says, Omar Avram, Gam ze al derech harav hu holech, v'ein hagon modelam. In other words, when the Rambam says that giving over somebody else's moment to the anos, you're chayav to pay for that, the Gaonim did not accept that. Why? V'chein bedin, and the Ravid agrees with the Gaonim, she'ein l'cha davar ha'omed b'pnei pikuach nefesh Umiyayin Yischayev. Yomus b'shvil moment chavero. Right, your life is in danger. So you're taking someone else's moment.
Everyone's life is in danger.
What do you say?
Everyone's life is in danger.
Okay, but I'm just saying, the Ravid is arguing in V'Shem HaGaonim that if you're giving over this mammon, because this mammon now represents someone's life, you can't be chayav for that. That's called Ein Davar Omed B'Fnei Pikuach Nefesh. I have only one question on the Ravid. Anybody have a question on the Ravid? Our Gemara says the exact opposite. Our Gemara says that if the Nirdaf needs to destroy Mammon, again, the separate halacha we said with regard to the moment of the Rodeh, but if he destroys anyone else's Mammon, he has to pay for that. So what's the Ravid yelling over here? The Ravid is saying, why should he be chayav? It's ein lecha davar omer b'fnei pikuach nefesh. Well, what about the case of somebody who breaks someone's kelim in order to save his life? He's got to pay for that. Why don't say ain't on the moment, ain't davar omer b'fnei pikuach nefesh?
So would the Rama make a distinction between if that person has a gun to his head and he says, steal from this person, otherwise I'll kill you, or the whole city.
Destroy his car around I'm going to put it.
Yes. So those you'd have to give power.
Right, if you actually burn the Rambam, you burn the car, but then you have to pay it.
But the Ravid is saying that he doesn't have to pay. That's what we said when we looked at this Gemara. But the Gemara says the opposite. In other words, before we read the Gemara's conclusion, we said intuitively, if, again, David says there are two dinim here, there's also a chiyuv mamon, but I don't know. Pashtus is, the chiyuv mazik is a chiyuv for doing the hezek.
Like an onesh.
And then call it an onesh. But here he's saving his life. The Torah is commanding him to do this instruction. I mean, the Ravid is saying what we thought intuitively is correct, or I'm saying the royal we, but the Gemara says pakeret. No, so how do I reconcile the Ravid with the Gemara?
Maybe it's not the Nirdav, it's a royal Bacharod. Because it's not him exactly he's saving the city, he's not saving himself.
He's probably saving himself as well.
But it's royal Bacharod, then he's not going to be high. The moment shall
you want to say that this is like Rodeh Vachar Rodeh?
Yes.
1 second. Who's
the guy who takes someone else's money?
Right.
Is in a similar position of the Roy Macaroni because he's trying to save someone else, not trying to save himself necessarily.
He's trying to save a third party.
He's trying to save a third party, not trying to save himself. If he
you're right.
There's a gun to his head, maybe he would be.
So the right
then otherwise he would be able to save it.
Here he's saving himself.
Saving the whole city, saving the other thing. But if you don't,
BIyun is going to kill this guy. He's going to kill everybody.
He's going to kill the city. That's what I understood.
Right. Rachel called Adam. Right. So Rodeh Vachar Rodeh, if we said there's a takana, but if not for the takana, then he should be chai.
Yeah, so then no one in the town is going to.
I mean, certainly Ben Shel Kol Adam, he would be chayiv, but we have to introduce this because otherwise nobody will say. In the case of the Anos, I mean, we're not dealing with this takonis chachamim, I don't think, of matzil is chadver. Maybe you could say that this is also called matzil. Just 1 second. Why should I get involved with this guy and save his mammon? I'm going to have to pay for it. So here also, maybe here also, we want to encourage him. But that's not what the Ravid is saying. The Ravid is not invoking the takanas chacham. He's invoking the halacha of eimecha davar she'omer b'fnei pikuach nefesh. That teshlumi mazik is because you had no right to do what you did. But if you have an obligation to do what you did, then you don't have to pay. You don't have to pay damages. That's the Ravid. But the Gemara seems to say the opposite. How much time do we have? Like, we still have
It's
5 minutes?
8:26.
We have 5 minutes?
4 minutes.
4 minutes, okay, but 1 second. And there's something just crossed my mind. It's just like sometimes something flashes across your mind, you know what I mean? But you didn't get a chance to grab it.
Yeah.
So let me see, 4 minutes. Okay, 4 minutes. Give me 4 minutes. I get very nervous here. Give me 4 minutes. It's okay.
Just would you all take minutes for your document, Shlomi?
As long as the company.
You have an obligation to save yourself.
So you're gonna what?
Why would-
You're gonna have, just one
Okay,
second. You're gonna have to pay.
Summit now.
You're gonna have to pay because what?
doctor to say.
Because, just 1 second. But also, just, can you give me a minute? I can't concentrate. You're gonna have to pay damages. This will be called nefesh. I have an idea. Let's see, can we work it out together? It says the following. The ones, the ma'anes wants this, which is owned by Ploni, right? So the Ravid says that for the sake of pikuach nefesh, you have to give up that object. Because that object represents human life. Do you remember the case of the Sfina? Right? So the Rambam lauds the person who takes that heavy weight and throws it overboard.
Right.
And the Rambam says, "Harei kiroden."
Yeah.
So if the Anos, again, I don't know, I can't be 1,000% sure that's the case, but I think that's the case. The Anos specifies this mammon that belongs to so and so. If you don't give him this mammon, we're all going to die. So the Ravid says, which is basically calling it a rodet. But maybe the Ravid maybe doesn't have this whole superstructure of the Rambam, which I think we also saw in the Ravid that he wasn't happy with this thing called a physical object that's a rodet. So maybe the Ravid didn't go that far, but the concept here is that this object is endangering the life of the entire
Right,
community.
so that's what I.
Whereas if you're running and today
Yeah, but there's no specific
right.
mamo that you have to use and
Right.
kill and destroy in order to save yourself.
Right.
All right, Rabbi, so we'll stop here.
Go ahead, go ahead.
What? That's all.
What's the official time now? 29. Oh, we gotta move.
But I'm not.
Gotta move like, they don't wait for anybody.
Was the light on here early when you got here?
Yechiel, I'm telling you, it was me, ain't all.
Oh,
I'm telling
no,
you,
but I sent them a reminder even.
I was so excited that the lights were on here. I can't tell you, I wanted to do a dance, you know?
Yeah, right. So maybe they're gonna start here. Maybe it'll drop in here.
What, at 8:30?
Yeah, because
8:40?
well, no, it'll be 8:30. I mean, that's what they called it for, but it's they're probably just finishing.
Because it's already 8:30.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't know. I had it usually good. I was actually wondering if I.
Sometimes that lights outside.
I was wondering if I should keep the 2 minutes.